everyone, I'm Kate Zullo, Head of Education here at the Litchfield Historical Society. Welcome to this week's History Mystery, where we take objects in our collection and share them with you at home. All right, you'll notice I'm in a new gallery today. I'm in our exhibit called Sold, Made, and Grown in Litchfield, which looks at some of the businesses in Litchfield's history and sort of how they shaped our town. Which of course fits really nicely into today's theme. So those of you who follow us on social media saw this week's mystery object, which I have right here. All right. Does anybody know what this is or what it was used for? Well, we can see it's made of wood. It has no moving parts, but it does have a pretty interesting design in that it is, if you can see, grooved on the top here, and then of course we do have a nice sturdy handle to hold on this side. We did have some correct guesses on social media. Teresa, Cheryl, Lindsay, Lockett, I think you guys all got it right. This is a butter paddle. A butter paddle like this one would have been used in at-home butter making. So to make butter, you take cream and you churn it, which means you agitate it, like you shake it up. And when you do that, the fats start to clump together and separate from the liquid. So essentially what butter is clumpy milk fat, which doesn't sound that appetizing, but you know, clumpy milk fat is actually pretty delicious. So a butter paddle like this would come into the process once the butter had already been churned. You would use this paddle to scoop it out of the churn, and the grooves, that's kind of where these grooves come in. These grooves actually help the buttermilk, so that liquid, separate from the butter itself. The liquid part will actually spoil faster, so you want to get out as much of that buttermilk as possible, and then also salt the butter. That would help it stabilize a little bit as well. So using your butter paddle, you could then transfer the butter into, after it had been rinsed and salted, you would use the butter to transfer it to one of these. Does anybody know what this is? And I'll show you the inside here. We have sort of a floral design. You will have noticed while I was picking it up, actually this bar can move and these pieces can all come apart. This is a butter mold, and a butter mold would be used to shape and decorate butter. So you would put the butter in here. You could use, this one actually has a tamp, which you can press it down. And then after the butter was set, this bar lifts and this butter mold actually all comes apart, so you can easily take the butter out. So both the butter mold and the butter paddle would have been used with at-home butter production. Litchfield has always had butter production here in town. You know, those early families were all sort of subsistence agriculture, which means that they were producing their own food, their own clothing on their farmsteads. But when we get into the late 19th century and the early 20th century, we actually start to see the rise of dairy as a real industry here in Litchfield. In fact, the very first U.S. farm to commercially bottle and sell its product was right here in Litchfield, the Echo Farm in 1879, and they shipped their milk all the way to New York City. So as we can see in the when we get into the 1900s, we start seeing sort of a change in the technology around the dairy industry. Now, one farm that I want to highlight with this is actually the one we have behind me in this photo here. Does anybody recognize this farm? I'll grab the camera and bring it a little closer. So we actually have two photos here. The large black and white photo is from the 1960-70 time period, and then we also have a color photo set in the top corner there, and that one's from 2018. If this farm is really quite iconic. If you've ever driven down Route 63 coming into Litchfield, you can't miss their really striking white barns and their like supermodel cows. This is Arethusa Farm. So Arethusa Farm starts in 1868 when Charles Webster buys a parcel of land on South Farms Road. And when he starts this farm, he actually has several different cash crops that he's growing. So it's not until the early 1900s when his grandson buys a herd of Guernsey cows that they actually start shifting the focus primarily into the dairy farming. By the 1920s, there's actually bottling and distributing local, so door-to-door milk sales. And it's around this time that we start to see some changes in sort of the technology being used. For example, this milking machine that I have behind me here, this is a surge milker, which the original surge milker was developed in 1922. I'm actually not sure when this milker was produced. This object actually is like brand new to our collection, so new that we haven't even fully processed it yet, so we still have a lot to learn about it. But we do see by the 1940s that most of the farms in Litchfield that are dairy farms are actually selling their milk wholesale. So they're selling their milk wholesale, and it's oftentimes going to sort of larger markets. And not many farms are actually producing dairy products in town. Arethusa is one of them, Toll House Farm is another. These are sites that have production here in town. Arethusa is actually the last dairy to offer door-to-door delivery here in town. And those operations run all the way until 1978. There's still, Art Webster is delivering milk as you know, your sort of classic American milkman. Actually, I'm going to grab the camera again so you can see this really fabulous photo of the last day of delivery. This is a photo of Art Webster. You can see him getting out of his truck, and he's delivering milk to the Getsy children on Meadow Street. And again, that photo was taken on his last delivery in 1978. So of course, when delivery of Arethusa's milk ends, that's not the end of the story. Because in 1999, the current owners make an agreement with the Webster family to restore the Arethusa name, and they establish a herd of Holsteins and Jerseys. And of course, from there, they just have tremendous success. And today, the Arethusa products are really known far beyond sort of the bounds of Litchfield itself. And they have a whole range of products that are really popular. If you have a favorite Arethusa product, go ahead and let us know what that is. I'd say mine is probably the 2% milk. I pretty much always have the 2% milk in my fridge. Although I will say that the toasted almond and coconut ice cream really is really spectacular. Now, I thought it would be fun to share with you one fun activity you can do at home. So you actually don't need butter paddles or churns or butter molds to make your own butter. All you need is a jar with a really tight-fitting lid and some heavy whipping cream. If you pour a little bit of that cream into your jar, you'll see I've just added about an inch here. Screw that top on really nice and tight, and then just go to town shaking it. I'm not going to shake it here because I've got artifacts right behind me, and our curator said no. But I did shake some earlier today. So as you start shaking it, it will eventually stop sloshing around because you will have turned your heavy cream into whipped cream. At this point, you're not done. This is when you want to like double down and shake even harder. Keep going and you'll actually start hearing it slosh around again as the fat has come together and the buttermilk separates. So when you have something that looks like this, a nice pat of butter surrounded by buttermilk, this is when you know that you have finished churning your butter and it's ready to eat. I would would say eat it right away. You know, freshly homemade butter doesn't have the same shelf life of the butter you find in the grocery store. So go ahead and enjoy it. Enjoy it on a nice piece of toast tonight. If you do make butter at home, let us know, send us some photos, tell us your stories. And of course, if it doesn't work, feel free to email me at education@litchfieldhistoricalsociety.org and I can help you out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's History Mystery. We're going to be back here on Tuesday with our next Coffee with the Curator. Our Curator of Collections, Alex, is going to be sharing the story of silhouettes. That's actually going to be on Zoom, so if you're interested in joining us, go ahead and email us and we can get you the link, but we'll also be putting the link on social media, so you can be joining us there as well. Great, well, from all of us here at the Historical Society, we hope you're all doing well, staying safe and staying healthy, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thanks you so much. Goodbye.